Hey, Cody,
Hey, what's up?
do you know what time a duck gets up in the morning?
At the Quack of Dawn?
At the crack of dawn. Hey, Travis County, welcome to Farm to Table this month. I'm Tamara Schubert, your family consumer sciences educator for New Mexico State University and Travis County Cooperative Extension. And like I said, it's Farm to Table, so welcome to our farm. And I'm sure you can hear all our animals in the background. So we are talking ducks. So on the farm, Cody and I raise ducks for not only show for our 4-H youth, but also for eggs and for meat when needed. So in the U.S., over 30 million ducks are raised for meat each year. And ducks, like geese and chicken, need some protection from predators because they are smaller. So Cody, let's talk first. What do we need for ducks as far as protection goes from predators?
You want a pretty good sized shelter, depending on how many ducks you have. So we've used basically almost like a big storage shed, and then we just fenced out a run for them to be able to run around, and then they have a swimming pool to swim in and bathe and preen and keep clean.
Yeah, so like Cody said, shelter is really important. Our nesting boxes are located in our shelter. So when we talk about shelter, our storage barn is lined with washable shower walls. So it's easy to keep clean. And it also has shavings down for them as well so that they have something to nest in. Because ducks are waterfowl, if you don't give them something to nest in, what we find is they like to lay in the pool, in the water, in the mud, things like that. And then that can be a source of contamination when we talk about harvesting eggs from them. Yep. Like Cody said, we have a run and stuff like that, but our ducks are also part-time free range. So most ducks will lay their eggs in the morning so that they can be turned out in the afternoon, so that they enjoy some grass time and things like that, so they can do bugs, a little bit of green grass, things like that, so they can look around and see what they want. Like Cody said, we do provide a pool for our ducks. Most of our ducks are water ducks, meaning they love to bathe and things like that. So fresh water is important for them, something that they can get into. We want something that they can dip their entire body in. So our body of water wants to be about the height of the back of a duck, at least the height of the back of a duck. So we have some old swim pools. We have some old cast iron bathtubs to give them a little bit deeper dive. But you really want to clean what? At least every other day?
About every other day. Best thing to try to do is keep it clean every other day. Some ducks are a little messier than others, but
especially when it gets hot. So that bacteria can multiply in those pools when it gets hot. So really every other day we want to look at that. All right. So when we talk about ducks for meat production, there's two major breeds in the U.S. that are typically raised for meat production. And one of those being the Pekin, which my little friend is very active today. So our Pekins are our white birds characterized by our yellowish orange beaks, and the other breed being a Muscovy. Now there's lots of different colors of Muscovies. We have some solid whites, we've got some grays. This happens to me, Minnie, and she is a black and white one. But Muscovies you can often always tell by the red markings around their face. A couple of other things when it comes to Muscovies is they're not typically a water bird. So although you'll see the Pekins and stuff around the water tanks and in the water a lot, Muscovies are not that way. Most of our Muscovies I hardly ever see in our water pools. There's a couple of other differences within them. So when we talk about breeding boxes or nesting boxes for them, they like to roost. So some roosting bars and things or trees for them to get up into is very handy. They're oftentimes bigger birds, and so they don't fly as far as our wild mallards do. What's the major difference in them, Cody?
these guys do not quack. These more are of a hissing variety. So these guys are really quiet.
They often get a bad rap because of the hiss, but that's how they communicate. So ours will meet you at the gate with their tails wagging and they're hissing, and they are super excited to see you
all the time
and looking forward to what you have for them. But these are the two major breeds when we talk meat in the U.S. Muscovies, like I said, are going to grow a lot faster than the majority of our varieties, and they're going to get bigger. And so they tend to be ready for market a little bit later than our smaller birds, just because they're a bigger bird. So Minnie here is one of our female Muscovies, and like Cody said, our male Muscovy, our biggest male Muscovy, does take, you kind of have to bear hug him to handle him. So he does get pretty big, which is why he's not on the video. He's kind of difficult to hold. The other thing we want to talk while we have these guys out here, Muscovies are kind of, to gender them, you do have to vent them. For the most part, because they don't follow the characteristics of most mallard derivative ducks. And we're going to go over that kind of as I have this pekin. This pekin that I have is a great example. So he is a male, and you can tell by this feather that flips up and curls right here. So when it comes to differentiating between males and females, they have a different quack. Again, obviously Muscovies don't, which is one of the reasons that venting them is the best way to gender them. But most mallard derivatives, you will get these two tail feathers that curl right here. They will have a different quack. And other than that, venting them is the best way to ensure that we know what gender our ducks is. So, Cody, why is it important to know gender when it comes to the ducks that we have on the farm?
Well, you definitely want to have a decent ratio, at least. You can have one male to 3 to 4
even 5
hens, maybe 5. Like the male ducks we call a drake, and then the females is I just basically call a hen. On the Muscovies, you try to have 6 or 7 hens to 1 drake, and that's how they be able to get the right percentage rate when hatching.
And that's important. Yeah, that's important for not only the safety of our females, but also when it comes to egg production. We want our females pretty healthy. Oh, and Minnie's getting a little wild. We want our females pretty healthy when it comes to egg production, and having too many males to females will decrease that because they get beat up on quite a bit. So we want to keep that ratio pretty safe. So this is Feathers. Feathers is a khaki. So one of the other reasons, or one of the other ways that we can tell our males from our females, is our males are going to be much more colorful. So you can see that Feathers here has a different head, and he's brightly colored through here. Here's his tail feathers that are curling up. One of those other signs that he is a male. When we talk about females, and I'm sorry, she jumped in the mud hole right before the video. Our female khakis are a solid brown, close to this color that's on Feathers' neck. But you can see how our males are much more colorful. He's much more colorful than our females are. And that's going to be true of most duck breeds. Pekins, obviously, they're white, so that's not going to be the case. But that's most mallard derivatives. The males are going to be more brightly colored. Good job, Feathers. All right, so one of the things with our ducks is making sure that they have food 24/7. So all of our ducks free eat. When they're little, you may start them off with a mash. But what we kind of find is that makes a mess, and you go through that pretty fast. And the mash, you want to make sure that it's wet enough that they don't choke, and it's not too wet that they can drown in it. So we typically start our ducklings off with a crumble, which is a high protein feed, and then we switch to a pellet. But we do want to make sure that they have that 24/7. The other things that you can do food wise is some dried mealworms. They love those. They have poultry treats at the store that you can kind of supplement for. But really, just like chickens, you can use some of the kitchen scraps and let them loose for free range in bug time. You want to make sure that your feed has the proper niacin levels in it. If not, their legs tend to get crooked and stuff as ducklings. And you kind of have to supplement at that point and brace. So you want to make sure that your food has enough niacin in it, especially as they're growing up. We do put them on some poultry cell and things like that as we get closer to show, just because that helps with their colors and their feathers and their overall coat condition. So let's talk eggs. So we mentioned that ducks typically, Cody's hungry. He wants some breakfast now, apparently. So we mentioned that ducks typically lay eggs in the morning, and we'll put some slides up here in just a little bit about the typical egg production. But when we talk eggs, I've got two for kind of comparison. So my left hand here is a duck egg. So when we talk about size, this is when, especially in recipes, We want to do 1 duck egg is comparable to 1.5 to 2 chicken eggs, if that gives you the right size. So we don't have chickens on our farm, but we do have geese on our farm. So here's a goose egg, here's a duck egg, and then the chicken eggs will be slightly smaller than that when we go to comparison. Definitely gather eggs in the morning, so they don't sit out in the sun all day. All right, join us next week. We are headed to the kitchen. Let's try out some of those recipes.